Hi there, and welcome to a online presentation about Great Fall Reads. My name is Jenny.paxson, and I'm the Reader's Discovery Librarian at the Webster Public Library. I'm going to share with you some uh, books that you may not have heard of, or you might have heard of. They're not the ones that are like the James Pattersons or the Stuart Woods. It's kind of stuff that our first time authors or some of our new award winners that you might not be aware of. So I'm gonna share my screen. And one second, here we go. Fall into a good book. So the first book I'm going to talk about is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. This book was the winner for the Women's Prize for Fiction. It's a UK award. And Hamnet is, I don't know if anybody is aware, but Hamnet is one of William Shakespeare's sons. And he unfortunately dies when he is 11 years old. And even though he's the main, the titular character of the book, the actual main character is William Shakespeare's wife, Agnes. And it's told from her perspective and the struggles she has as the wife of a playwright, and also losing her son. And if you're into historical fiction and you are interested in novels of people who have to deal with loss, this might be a book for you. It really does give you an essence of the time that Shakespeare was from. And Agnes, his wife, she lives in the countryside, whereas Shakespeare ends up going into the city to do many of his plays. So there's this great divide between the two of them, especially with the loss of their son. So very interesting book. Not much written about Agnes, but the main Maggie O'Farrell does a lot of research and puts a voice to this character. The next book I'm going to talk about is Anxious People by Frederick Bachmann. And Frederick Bachmann has been wildly popular with Webster patrons ever since he wrote A Man Called Uwe. People have been interested in his books. He definitely writes stories with quirky characters that you can't help loving. And he also talks about difficult topics, but in a way that makes people feel comfortable with the topic. And you will laugh at the same time as you're crying. And this book is no different from any other book that Frederick Bachmann has written. In this one, the main characters, there's, I think, 8 people. Yes, there's 8 people who are at an open house, and a bank robber who has recently tried to rob a bank, and he botches the job, ends up going to this open house and holding all the people hostage. And it becomes like a story about who are these 8 people that he's come into contact with, who is this bank robber, and how does their stories evolve? Like what are each of these people's lives like? And because it's Frederick Bachmann, all the characters are very quirky and interesting. And the bank robber doesn't know at the end, should he stay here and be tortured by these people, or should he just turn himself into the cops? It's almost a catch-22 for him. He doesn't know what to do. So if that tells you anything about where this story goes, you'll want to read it, I bet you. The next book here is The Thursday Murder Club. Now, this book I had not originally purchased for the library, but it has become wildly popular with people. The the main characters in the book are 80-year-old puzzle doer. They like they hang out each day and play puzzles together. And while they're doing their jigsaw puzzles, they talk about unsolved murders and how they would like to solve them. And these four people, again, are a bunch of quirky characters. So if you like quirky people, this is it. Another good one for you. But it's also a thriller and a mystery because as these people are trying to do their jigsaw puzzles, a crime happens locally, and a project developer dies, and so they get very involved in it, trying to figure out the crime. And unfortunately for them, maybe too involved, and it could end with tragedy. So, but it could also be the beginning of a great murder mystery club. Some people online have compared this book to a James Patterson, but I think it sounds like the characters are like the Women's Murder Club, but those tend to be a little bit more gruesome. I feel like this one is a little more on the fun side. So while it may be thrilling, you're not going to be overwhelmed by gore and violence. So if you like quirky characters with a little bit of thrills and chills, this might be the book for you. This next book, Transcendent Kingdom by Yakiyashi, is a read with Jenna Pick, which is one of the Today Show hosts. And I think this is her first book, her second book, I mean. Homegoing was her first book, and that was on the New York Times bestsellers list for a very long time. And this one has gotten a lot of great reviews and was actually planned to come out in, I think, April or May of this past year, and then it was pushed to August, and now it's coming out this fall. I think it came out in September. They bumped it along because they wanted, because of everything that was going on. So well worth the wait. It's a very interesting book. Gifty is the main character, and she is a Ghanaian woman who was born in the United States, but all of her family members are from Ghana, and they've all come here, and they're living here in the US. And she had a really tragic childhood. Her mother suffered from depression, and it kept her from moving forward and doing the things that she needed to in life. But as she's gotten older, she has become, she's very educated and very scholarly. She's getting her degree in neuroscience from a university in Alabama. And as she's trying to get her degree and working on her thesis, her mother spirals into another depression and wants her to come and be with her. And so as she's deciding what she's going to do, she kind of goes into her past and remembers the things that were going on in her childhood with her brother and her family and the tragedies that happened. And she compares it to the procedure she's doing the experiment she's doing on the rats that she's working with for her neuroscience degree. And it's kind of like a metaphor in ways for her life, working on the rats and comparing it to the things that she struggled through. And it sounded like a fascinating story. And if you like books about culture, or like a cultural jumping into another person's life who's outside of your own culture, like myself, I'm not a Ghanaian, so this sounded very interesting to me. I love learning about other cultures. And the other thing is this is somebody who's transplanted to the United States and her family has to deal with learning about the other culture and trying to understand that too. So if you like learning about different cultures and more of a contemporary story, I suggest you try Transcendent Kingdom by Yakiyashi. This next one here is by Ruth Ware. It's One by One, and she's another author that has been super popular at the Webster Library. And I've been hearing a lot of people talking about this one, saying it's one of her best books. Most of her books feel like they could be a film. This one here is and no different from the others, very interesting. She has a very Agatha Christie way of writing, where it's like these mysteries that are kind of slowly creep up on you, and you feel like shocked and scared by the atmosphere that she writes about. With this one, which I feel like a lot of books are writing these things where people are isolated, or they're stuck somewhere, or they are trying to get out of something. And I feel like that's probably part of this whole time that we're living in, where people are stuck in places and they can't go anywhere. But so in this book, there's 8 people from this company, and they're going on a like a self-help journey up into like a ski lodge up in the middle of the mountains. And they're trying to learn about togetherness and working together and being better working with each other. And while they're there, unfortunately, an avalanche happens and they get stranded in the ski lodge. And things go from bad to worse when there's not as much food and they're trying to figure out how they can survive. And of course, the company has struggled all along with togetherness, and now being forced into togetherness at this time has not made it any easier. And so everyone's flaws have come out. And with the structure, the hierarchy, the people who are on top, when the food runs out, not necessarily the people who are in control of the situation anymore. And this makes for, what's going to happen? Will they all survive? Will they all leave the ski lodge? What's going to happen to this small company? Will they learn togetherness? Probably a little bit of all of those things we'll be struggling through. But if you like mysteries with suspense, a little bit of Agatha Christie, if you like people stories, character building, contemporary, this is another book for you. Leave the World Behind. Now, this book is by Rumaan Alam, and he was in the long list for the National Book Award. Many of these books were nominated for the National Book or the Carnegie Award, which kudos to those institutions for nominating such rich and diverse cultures and authors and stories. So it's definitely something interesting to see so many diverse authors coming out into the publishing industry right now. In this book, it's about, there's a family that they've been overwhelmed by the things that are going on in their real world, and they decide they're going to leave the world behind and go out into the middle of nowhere and stay at an Airbnb. As they're like making dinner one night, the power goes out, and as the power has gone out, there becomes a knock at the door, and this young Black couple comes to the door, and these people say that this is their house and that they are looking to come in and stay there during the blackout. And because there is no electricity, there's no internet, they are unable to say whether this story is true. And so they let the people in, but who is the weird story? Where is the problem? You think one of these people isn't telling a good story or telling something inaccurate. And so of course everybody's got a shady story to tell or a shady background. And all the truths will come out in the end, and what is going on in this story. If you like thrillers, this is for you. If you like social commentary about what's going on in society right now, this is also a good one to read. And, sort of that whole idea of the different cultures understanding each other, and you know, perspectives. There's the white perspective and the black perspective, and what that is and how they differ and divert from each other. So if you're interested in doing a little bit of reading that way, I think you'll really enjoy Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam. This next book here, Memorial by Brian Washington, this one I'm really excited about. It's our book club pick for my book club. And it's a contemporary fiction. It's been long listed for the National Book Award as well, just like the previous book. The two main characters on this one are Mike and Benson. And Benson is a Black man who is a daycare worker, and Mike is an Asian man who is working in the catering industry or at a Mexican restaurant. He's the chef there, and the two of them have been together for a number of years. And of course, like with any relationship, it has its ups and downs, and things change, and being in it for such a long time, they wonder where it's going. And out of the blue, Mike's mother pops up from Japan and in Texas where they live, and she tells them that Mike's father is not doing well and that he's dying. And so Mike, just like, even though his mother is there, he flies to Japan and to see his father. And as he's there, he realizes there's a lot to his family that he doesn't know. And he starts learning about things and learning about his culture. And while he's gone, Benson is now stuck with Mike's mother, and they have to understand each other and grow and evolve. And when Mike comes back from Japan, what is Benson and his relationship from that point forward? Will they stay together? Will they break up? What are they going to do? Will these things that happen to them while they're apart change their relationship for the better or worse? If you like contemporary fiction, you like relationships, family secrets, this is the kind of book that you will like. And I haven't read this one, but I am eager to try it. And especially since my book discussion group is reading it. The next one here is The Death of Vivek Oji by I butchered his name, Akwake Emezi. And this one here, not obviously, is a mystery, and has it's character driven, and you'll learn a lot about the characters in the story. It's set in Nigeria, where a mother walks through her front door and she finds her son wrapped in a colorful blanket at her doorstep. And that's where the story starts, but it's not the beginning of the story. Vivek is her son, and he suffers from blackouts and disorientations. And so he has really trouble with his health. And so because of that, he tends to stick close to home, and he has a lot of interesting relationships with Nigerian women who are in the neighborhood that he lives in. Most of them are the wives of the local leader, they're the local wives. So he has this relationship with them and his mother, and he gets into huge conversations with them and learns about them, and has a friend that he becomes very close to, but because of who he is and what his health is things spiral out of control. And you wonder how, the book's obviously the title is The Death of Vivek Oji. What happens to him? What happened? Why is he end up on his mother's doorstep? what happens to his mother, what happens to the relationships that he has. If you're interested in cultural stories and learning about other places like Nigeria, if you're interested in mysteries, I think you'll really enjoy this. A lot of people have placed this one on hold. It wasn't one I originally had purchased for the library again, but because it became so popular by word of mouth, I think this has been one that has really hit the bestseller list. This next one here is called Missionaries. It's by the author Phil Clay. And the main character in this book is Mason. Well, there's three main characters. Mason is a special ops soldier, and he's so used to being in war and fighting and doing things away from home. When he comes home, he doesn't know what to do with himself. So he decides to go back out there, become special ops again, and he goes to Colombia. And in Colombia, he meets Juan Pablo. Juan Pablo is a translator for the Colombians. And so when he's at the Colombian, not Central Command, but he's at his headquarters, he meets Juan Pablo, and Juan Pablo tells his own story in his own words, from his own perspective of what it's like to live in Colombia and the things he knows. And so we get altering perspectives between these two characters. And the third character, which is a man who fights in the local militia, who is why Mason is there, why Juan Pablo is there. This person's name is he's a lieutenant in the militia, and he's struggling on his own. He has a family, he has things going on, but he's fighting for the militia, even though the head of the militia, he doesn't hold the values that, or the same ideas that he does. So it tells the story of each of the individuals who lived the story, who lived the life. And, when you see something in the news about something going on overseas or in another part of the world, you only see it as a whole. These people tell the stories of what is going on. So if you like a book about war, character driven, learning about people, understanding other cultures, you will enjoy Missionaries by Phil Clay. And this one was also, I think this was a National Book Award long list title. This next book is called The Archer by Palocello. And taking a different perspective from another culture, this one it takes place in Japan. And this is more of almost like a parable for life. I feel like if you're reading like The Shack or something like that, it's kind of got that metaphor for living. You're going to get something out of this story. The main character, Tetsuya, is a renowned for his work with the bow and arrow, and he retires. And when he retires, he is sought after by a boy who looks for the answer. He's asking questions. He wants to know about the bow and arrow, and he wants to know about life. And so Tetsuya compares using a bow and arrow to life, and to a person who risks it all to find out what's worth life, or what's worth living for. And if you kind of like those kinds of stories where you get a metaphor for things, or you have you feel like you've changed by the end, like maybe like is it the Book of Pi, something like that, the Life of Pi, sorry, something like that. This seems like it has the same feel towards it. You're going to feel changed by the end. So if you're interested in stuff like that, you should definitely try Palocello's The Archer. And this final book that I'm going to recommend is Take It Back by Kia Abdullah. This book kind of reminded me of a Jodi Picoult, but it might be a little bit more thriller-y but it has that legal aspect to it. So the main character, Jody, accuses 4 boys in her class of raping her. And the 4 boys are immigrants with corroborating stories. And they're also, exemplary in the community. And her lawyer, Zara, is defending her. And of course, people don't believe Jody. They think that she's not really telling the truth. And even Zara has having a hard time with her case, but she decides she's going to defend her anyway. And the case becomes so explosive that they don't know what's going to happen. Like, you are going to be at the edge of your seat with this one. You don't know what costs these Jody is going to cause by either A, she's lying, or is she not, or is it the truth? And what does she do to the community? And what is she doing to herself? So you'll find all that out in Take It Back by Abdullah. So I hope that you find one of these books interesting, and we'll pick one up at the library. And you might have to place them on hold, but you can always call the Webster Library at 585-872-7075. And you can place a book on hold, or you can email us at webster.reference@libraryweb.org, and we will be happy to help you.